Hey guys, hope everybody's having a great day. Today we're going to be talking about the Security Plus 501 exam. The main reason I'm making this video is because it was super hard when I took it, when I was preparing for it, and I had to go to all these separate different places. So within this video, I'm hoping to provide all the links, resources I used, and my own personal experiences. That way, if in case you're looking into cybersecurity or to grab the certification, you have one place to go to grab everything that you need. And I pretty much used a lot of different things because I didn't want to chance anything or just use one. So what I did is pretty much combine a whole bunch of different learning types, whether you're hands-on or more of a sight understanding where you kind of see things happen and you understand it, or if you're more hands-on where you need to kind of take more practical quizzes. I'm going to include all that in the resources below. Today I'm going to be explaining the three-step method I used to pass this test in 3 months. So I segmented it into 1 month per phase. Wherever you are skill level wise, I'm going to be able to help you kind of navigate through all that. Before I go into any personal experiences or what kind of opportunities getting the certification has opened up, I want to talk about the three-step method I used. So the method number one for the first phase, I call this kind of the getting familiar phase, where you're just learning definitions or you're kind of just getting familiar with the course content. So right here, you're not looking to understand absolutely everything. You're just looking to get yourself as much familiar, really break that ice and break through that fearful stage of not knowing anything about this test. Produces the book. The cover looks exactly the same. It just says Security Plus test. It's a bit thicker, but even this one, it's maybe double the thickness of this book. So you can imagine the amount of content that's in the book, and it might look really scary. So if you look at the book and you might get fearful and then end up never starting at all instead of kind of segmenting it, that's the biggest thing that held me back. I spent a majority of my time getting through a few chapters of that book, and within the last 3 months, where I actually got like maybe 80 to 90% of the work done, it happened within 3 months, where I was kind of procrastinating and just fearful that I kind of almost scared of success because I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it. So I'm going to provide the links in the description as I mentioned, but the first thing I did in this step is used a Security Plus Udemy. Regardless of the time in between, I think the course content's still the same. It's still the 501, but I figured that this method should be really helpful for anybody who's trying to go through it and kind of have a kind of direction to be pointed into. So I'll link the actual Udemy down below, but that's the main thing I used for the getting familiar phase. I also used a YouTube series from Professor Messer. I'll link that as well. But those two were extremely helpful. So during lunches or anytime I had a break, I'd be watching some of the videos just to get familiar, and I really put my attention on just getting familiar. Sometimes I had them running in the background while I was doing something else, but the most value I got out of them is when I actually sat down and maybe dedicated an hour or two, maybe in the morning, in between classes, or if you work. I did some before work, some during lunches like I mentioned, or even after work. You do a few hours each time and you make some real progress. But I think a lot of the times I used to, my particular problem was I didn't want to move to the next video until I completely understood what was going on here. And since I learn in different kind of ways, where sometimes I need to be hands-on, sometimes I could see it and understand it, or sometimes I can apply it. That one example wasn't always helping me understand it. It's my routine to just get familiar with it and just really listen, not put a name on anything or expect to understand anything, but really just try to get some definitions down and take a little bit out of each thing that they were telling me. And just opening up that mindset of things, I actually became more receiving of that information and probably learned more than I would have if I was trying to like really put my attention on just learning absolutely everything the first time. So that's why I call it the icebreaker stage, because it's not meant to kind of get anything done, but you're supposed to get really familiar with everything and try to learn some definitions as much as you can. Kind of see it as like if you're getting a sneak peek into the course content. Imagine the phases or any of the studying hasn't started yet, but you're getting a head start or like some kind of cheat code to where you can kind of peek and get some information before any of your actual training starts. So part two is where you start doing some of the practice questions. So a lot of people would recommend that all you need is the practice questions, and you could just go over them until you understand everything. That sounded really good in theory, but it was kind of scary to me, so I didn't want to fully rely on it, especially because you're paying money to take this exam. So I ended up doing some of the questions. There's places where you can buy some questions, some practice questions. I'm going to link some down below. But I was scared that maybe they pulled different questions out of the 501 exam and if I'm not prepared for them, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just pretty much trying to remember all the questions I've been answering and try to hope that they're on the test, which I didn't feel was very safe. I never liked taking tests like that. I kind of like understanding them, and the moment I could understand them and explain them in a few different ways, that's when I'm comfortable moving forward. So that's what I wanted to do. I used the questions, but I used a specific link called Kaplan. So that's the website, Kaplan, and they have a course for Security Plus where they just give you a bunch of questions. I think you get 3 problem sets with a ton of questions in the word bank, so it was incredible. Not only that, but they gave explanations for all the answers. So you take the test and it gives you 3 attempts, different questions, so which is really amazing. At the beginning of phase 2, I took one of the tests and I remember scoring super low, and this was expected, of course, because I hadn't gone through everything yet, just learned some of the definitions, but it gave me somewhere to scale and gauge where I was moving. So I took that test and I took it just as if like this is the real test. Where would I be? What would I score? It was a chance for me to test my skills without actually worrying about anything. And it does cost money. It costs $80, but I think it's worth it because it will put you ahead and it will get you some incredible explanations that you really won't find with any other practice questions. And if you have the money to spend, I recommend spending the $80, and you'll 100% be able to grasp everything instead of spending the $350, potentially failing and having to pay another $350. Get it right the first time, and I think everything here, if you do it right, you'll be fine. But so yeah, so I took the test, and what I really liked about it is that it tells you, so if you get the answer wrong, you can go and review things. It tells you why the answer was right, but it also tells you why the wrong answers were wrong. So this really, instead of just one question giving you an insight to one thing, it really gives you insights to 4 things. So for example, if A, B, C, and D, the answer was D, it tells you why it was right, but A, B, and C, it tells you why they were wrong and where they actually get applied to. So for every one question, you're really getting 4 questions worth of information. So this is really incredible because you get maybe about 300 in the word bank already, and 3 times 4, that's around 1,200 questions or pieces of information you could kind of gather. And this really helped me because, I mean, if you do something wrong and someone just says, no, you're wrong, I mean, you don't really ever know why. But if someone tells you, no, you're wrong, this is what's right, here's why it's right, and here's why what you did was wrong, and here's why other things that you could have done would have been wrong as well, you go on to the next time you ever have to do that, you know exactly what you have to do, why it was wrong, and a better chance of getting it right, as opposed to if someone just tells you, no, you're wrong, try again. And I think that's what I really gathered from Kaplan specifically, that course, and that was by far one of the things that put me ahead. Maybe 10 of the questions are going to be not multiple choice, they're going to be a different range of things, but this is going to help you get so comfortable with the multiple choice that even if you get some of the non-multiple choice ones wrong, whether it be like some kind of course or like run through or simulation, even if you get those wrong, you're going to be so comfortable just doing the questions alone that you have some wiggle room. And I think this is what really helped me. I did really well in the questions and the multiple choice, and I think those, if you could master those, that's pretty much free. And once you get to the simulations, you can afford to mess up a little bit, and of course you don't want to, but those are the ones where are a little bit more unpredictable. They could be about anything, so you don't want to take too many chances with those. That's what you want to be your wiggle room, and if you get those wrong, you want to be more okay with that instead of getting something that's a little bit easier to understand, like multiple choice wrong. If you're getting multiple choice wrong, you're gonna have a little bit more trouble when you're getting to the simulations. Okay, and for phase 3 is going to help you fill all the gaps that you might have missed between looking at videos, courses, or just the questions. And this one's going to be the most simplest, but it's going to be reading the book. Of course, I told you it's going to be, so of course the book's going to be looking something like this. I'll put a link to where you can get the book on Amazon, but when you buy the book, you get the actual physical book, and you also get a PDF downloadable copy. So that's 2 different ways you can read it. So if like you're studying at home, but then you happen to be on the road, you can pick up where you left off by picking up the PDF book. Me personally, I like the physical book because you can flip back and forth. I just like, there's something about a physical book that's just better to me. And as I'll point out later in the video, it's actually a key to one of the final techniques for getting this all down. But yeah, so going to the physical book, it's going to give you more explanations, further detail, and of course you get 3 chances with the Kaplan test. So usually when I get 50% done of the book, that's when I took another test, or I believe it might have been 80% of the book done. I took another test to see exactly how much I improved, and I remember getting about like 70 or something like that. And I know you need an 85 to pass, just to feel comfortable as well. So I knew that I needed to fill in some more information with the book. And so basically what I did was I went from chapter 1 all the way to the end, and I did this by pretty much segmenting some time. Sometimes during work I had more of a management job where if someone needed paperwork done or if someone needed help, I can help them, but other than that the job was pretty much self-maintained. So I had some time to kind of study on the side too, put some hours into that. Also in the morning I'd wake up a little earlier and study, really put my attention to it, because of course I really wanted to get this done within 3 months. I didn't want to take any longer with that. I felt like I was going to dedicate way too much time, and I know a lot of people take usually 6 to more months than that. And when I really focused down on it, didn't want to take any more than 3 months. I had looked at videos before, but I didn't really count that towards the main portion of the studying. All right, and what I felt about this book, when you start going through the chapters, it feels like process of elimination. You're familiar with the definitions from phase 1. You understand some of the questions from phase 2, so you see them kind of coming up in the book. So once you actually start reading the book, it's like process of elimination, but not of wrong answers, but it's process of elimination of material that you never understood before. So from chapter 1 to however many chapters there are, I believe there were like 20 something, every chapter you hit, you understand it, and now it's process of elimination of the unknown chapters. And the more you get through, you're going to feel like you understand this part and the rest is unknown. Once you finally get through it, you're going to see those coming up in your test results. So it's just a really good feeling knowing that reading the book for the first time, a lot of the times I don't grasp as much information, but because we were familiar with the definitions, familiar with the practice questions, it felt like it was more of a refresher, and they were just putting more insight, more detail into each of the reasons why things were right or why they worked that way. So the course content was really a refresher and a detailed explanation, as opposed to remember this and try to take the test. I feel like that was the right way to do it. The last thing I did was, I think the last 30 minutes right before the test, I was outside doing this method, but I spent a few days also doing something called I called the index method. So I had gone through the entire book already, and then the next thing I did was literally sit down with the book, go through the index at the very beginning, and if I knew what that word meant, or if I could explain it in maybe 3 ways, like explain what it is, how to use it, and maybe another case where I could use it, or another way to explain it. If I could do those 3 things, I would move on to the next one. But if I couldn't, I would go back to the book and reread it again, that little chapter or the little paragraph. And this wasn't anything crazy hard. It wasn't like you're reading the entire book again. It's just really filling in the gaps, because sometimes you need repetition. So for example, I'd pretty much just open up the index once I've read through everything. Let's say I was getting stuck on enumeration. So I'd see that it was on page 62, and I'd just turn to page 62 and then try to understand it again. And at first it was freaking me out, because I was like, wow, there's a lot of these words that I don't know. But as soon as I'd go back and I'd get familiar with them, it's like, well, what else can you really do but read them again? So don't get scared if you are finding yourself needing to look at a lot of them. It's just repetition. Do it as many times as you need. You have as much time in the world, as long as it's before you take the test. So then I'd go to enumeration, read this all. If I still didn't understand it for some reason and I needed a different explanation, I'd look up a YouTube video on it. There's tons of videos on there. There's tons of videos out there on these kind of topics, but of course you don't want to go searching one by one. You want to see what you can do from a structured guide, and then whatever you're missing, if it's not explained well or it's not your typical style of learning, then you can outsource for it. That's when I usually go to YouTube. For example, if I didn't understand this enumeration explanation, I'd go to YouTube, look it up. If it was too boring or I just didn't have the mental attention, go to Google, whichever works for you. But I did that pretty much until I got to the entire index, and I think that helped fill any gaps I had, and I ended up passing the test. You needed about an 85 to pass. I want to say I got like an 89. Then I earned this right here, which was for me incredible, because before I was so scared before I started the 3-month phase that I kind of created on my own. But before I started the 3-month phase, I was kind of just scared to really get into that phase of hard studying, because I didn't know how hard it was going to be. So I was just watching videos and just trying to peek here and there at like some information, but I never really started. So passing that test was the most incredible feeling. And I know if you're currently studying, or if you're looking to study, or if you're in school or looking for a job in the future, I know you're probably super stressed out about it. Your teachers might be mentioning it, your friends, your coworkers might be mentioning it, your job descriptions might be mentioning that you need some certain qualifications, and since you don't have work experience, they need either projects or certifications. So this is one way to prove, just like a college degree can also prove that you have some skills. This kind of shows some initiative to also go further than that, not just do the norm or what's expected of you. So like if you're in college and you're getting your degree, getting a certification while you're in college can help show an employer that, hey, well, he's going for something incredible already that we need for our job requirements, but he's also going and taking the initiative to go even further and expand outwards. And when you're in a job setting, that's really the type of people they're looking for. So they're looking at people who are going to take initiative, take that learning skill, and aren't afraid to really push themselves. So if you're already showing that and you haven't even started a job yet, they're really going to be looking forward to maybe talking to you or getting you an interview, and then that's up to you to get yourself further once you actually get face-to-face in an interview. Talk about the opportunities that this certification opened. The teachers, my instructors were telling me a lot about how a lot of job requirements have this listed on there, so I was like, all right, let's do it. I didn't exactly know too much about it, but I wanted to get it done. And I'll tell you this much, it is 100% worth it. Even if you're not sure if you want to do security, I think moving in one direction as opposed to not moving at all is 100% the better case, because it's even a process of elimination if you decide that you don't want to do it. A lot of people could see that as a wasted time, but I think you're kind of narrowing down your interests as well. And it's also having an opportunity in case you ever need it. For example, right out of college when I graduated and I had the certification and a few others, I had a job offer in Dallas to take a security analyst position. Right now I'm currently doing data and analytics, which is a completely different practice from Security Plus. And of course, I'm still interested in Security Plus, and I will keep learning about both of them. I find them both really interesting. But it just goes to show that even if it's a backup plan or it's just another opportunity to be open, it's 100% worth it. I did get an offer, I just decided not to take it. Scared about not receiving offers at all. I think an employer would be more scared of hiring someone who isn't moving at all, as opposed to someone who's at least trying different things and seeing what they like. Someone who's open to change, open to adaptability, they're gonna like a lot more. Yeah, I'm just gonna go over a little bit more of the phases. So I'll talk about my personal experience. I had a lot of trouble finding a complete guide. A lot of people were telling me, oh, you should try just the practice questions, just read the book, that's all you need, everything is in there, which is true. But I think when people have different styles of learning, it's important to outsource for different things and bring it all together. I think that's why I want to put all the links and the resources down below in the description. I'll put timestamps in case you need to revisit this video. You know exactly where you left off or where you need to go. Make it really easy for you guys, because I mean, my goal is really to help you pass, because I think it was super hard, and at the end of it I realized it's just a simple process and a simple guidance that you have to create for yourself, and if you do that, you will pass. Like, there's no way you won't pass if you put your attention towards it. So it was almost like this this illusion of fear that I had, and once I passed it, I realized it is possible. And it's something that I kind of thought wasn't possible for a bit, even though I was studying every day for it. I had this like imposter syndrome / like, am I really going to pass this test? How good am I at test taking? Sometimes I'm not the best. So it just showed me that it's possible. And for anybody else who might having that same fear, or just in general, I think it's natural to be scared about something like this, where there's so much pressure for like to get a job and stuff like that. And of course, like, it's a very competitive industry, but there's also a lot of demand, and I think there's no shortage for the need of people who are willing to take initiative and get certifications and learn all the things that you need to learn for a job. But yeah, so I took another thing I actually used was Quizlet. So a lot of people use Quizlet for studying or for other reasons, but you can actually look up Security Plus 501 Quizlet, and they give you more practice questions. They give you, those little note cards where you can flip back and forth and look up definitions. They even have some practice questions on there. So those are some free resources if you want free resources. I highly recommend the Kaplan, but if you're trying to go super low budget and you really have confidence in yourself, you can also try the Quizlet, or just maybe give yourself a little bit more time for free resources. But if you've got the money, I highly recommend the Kaplan. Not just because it costs money and it's like another resource, but it genuinely pushed me so much further. But yeah, so I used Quizlet in between. A lot of my studying also came while I was working a different job. Like I said, it was very self-maintaining, so I didn't really have to do much work after certain hours. So I would pretty much download Quizlet on my phone. I'd have the PDF as well, so I had two resources I could always refer to in case I got tired of one. I could switch to the other. So I'd quiz myself, I'd read more, I'd go back through things I didn't understand. some of the harder chapters. So there's 20 something chapters, but there's 6 different sections. And one of the ones, some of the sections stepped me more than others. Some of them I understood, they were more general. Some of them were very, very detailed, like port numbers and stuff like that, where you have to really memorize these things. So those kind of things I would revisit over and over. And of course, humans just learn by repetition. If you don't get it right the first time, it's completely normal. Don't freak out. Just go over it again, get more familiar. Once you relieve that fear of actually doing it, then you'll be more open to receiving the information. So just know that if you don't get it the first time, if you're not in the state for learning it, put it down, go study something else, or take a break, come back. It's always going to be there. Even if you need to take more than 3 months, that's fine. Even if it's 4 months or 5 months, however much you need, as long as you secure this this goal or this certification, that's all you're really looking for. I think it can be done in 3 months, and even though I had a little bit of practice before with just watching videos, they're really just videos, and you could do that on your free time too. So this 3 months is not 3 months of like really just coasting. This 3 months is really 3 months of really putting your head down in the dirt and studying as much as possible, as many times as possible, over as much different sources as you can. So yeah, I would just recommend really to just push yourself as much as possible. Use all the resources, they're out there. I understand that they can be kind of confusing because there's so many different ones, but I'm gonna provide links down in the description so you have a solid plan, a guide, and I'll put the timestamps as well. So I hope you guys pass the exam if you're looking to it, if you're looking to take it soon or in the future, or if you're looking for cybersecurity jobs, or if you're interested in cybersecurity. I hope whatever goal it is that you have involving cybersecurity or this test, I hope you reach them. All the resources are out there. A lot of the times it's us being in our own way, and we need to just get out of our heads before we can actually go any further. So I just finished up with all the notes I was taking, that way I can make sure I didn't miss anything. But if I did miss anything, just leave it in the comments. I'll be happy to explain more or answer any questions if I know the answer, or maybe point you to a resource or a link. But yeah, I hope you guys pass the test. And if you do pass the test, leave it in the comments. That'd be super awesome to see. Even if one person passed the test because of this, or because of the resources I pointed to, that'd be incredible to hear, and I really would love to hear it. So if you're looking forward to taking the test or anything, put it in the comments so that way I can see. It'd be really awesome. But yeah, until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace.